We discussed earlier about how some of the first terms for loans were officially set about in the First Babylonian Empire through the Code of Hammurabi. And in fact, some of the first terms for insurance policies, or as Chris Rock might say,
they shouldn't even call it insurance. They should just call it in case shit. Like, I give a company some money in case shit happens. Now, if shit don't happen, shouldn't I get my money back?
were also set about there, as they were working in that case with potential losses to goods by traders as they were going in their travels, in particular travels by sea to get from one landmass to another, because obviously taking a boat is, well... risky. You have your stuff all sinking to the bottom. Davy Jones can only have so much of your grain before it starts to become an issue. But for today, for our modern purposes, the main forms of insurance that you probably have some passing knowledge of are things like life and medical and car insurance, which is what we'll be looking at here, where a lot of the systems that we have in America today are built around the assumption that certain accidents, incidents, problems will be handled not by people, but by large national corporations with tons of money and lots of manpower to throw at them to solve the problem. Where it does set some weird expectations up because, even if your insurance is provided by an employer, and a lot of employers will provide at least some forms of insurance, what you're paying for is kind of a bet against your own skills, health, good fortune, really, because you may end up going your whole life paying into insurance policy that you never use, as you only really use an insurance policy when things go wrong. Now, having this all set up does provide some benefits. It does help for things like security in case something goes wrong, that if things get lost, or if there's an injury, something of that nature, and you have a good insurance policy, that means you don't have to worry about managing the costs, the headache of all that stuff. Some big corporation is going to walk in and take care of it for you. You'll just pay more premiums later.
I would have thought you learned that when I ordered you to kill your pet.
This type of thing has encouraged international trade since the days of Hammurabi, even though most would say that international trade means something slightly different now. Hey, that's what it was there for originally. We still use it to this day. On the other hand, assuming that a big, faceless multinational corporation will handle everything means that certain smaller problems, well, they kind of fall out of the grasp of normal people. For example, this has put some in very uncomfortable positions when it comes to what could be basic medical expenses. Because, with the idea being that insurance will step in, pay for the costs, all of that, it tends to be more complicated and expensive than a single person could really handle on their own budget.
You know the business, and I know the chemistry.
Man, so if you're poor, you're dead.
In this class, though, here, we're going to focus in particular on car insurance, on auto insurance, where in most states, drivers are required to have some form of liability insurance, and liability insurance refers to basically two types of things, either injury insurance, bodily injury liability, which is concerned with the cost of lawsuits from injuries or deaths that result in accidents that you may be at fault for, and also property damage liability, which kind of tells you what it is. This is what goes along with potential damages, say if your car skids into a light pole and knocks it over, or you drive through a storefront. That's what property damage liability coverage is for. And then from there, if you're on a rent or lease program, you may also need what's called collision and or comprehensive coverage. Collision being coverage for helping manage costs in the case of any accident where you're not the owner of the car, and comprehensive for things like, acts of God, fires, thefts, things that aren't really in your control but can still happen because you are driving around a thousands of dollar multi-ton piece of machinery. You put enough in there, shit happens.
Boy, you see that? See? Every time I get it waxed, I get 10 feet from the car wash and then pow, bird shit.
Well, it's supposed to be good luck.
Nothing you can do to avoid it forever. Where insurance is a very tricky and detailed topic that has lots of proponents and, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know what the opposite of proponent is off the top of my head. It's kind of silly, but that's okay. Point is, there's more here than 2 paragraphs should really cover. But the main things we need to know here are that for car insurance, the amount you're paying in terms of your premiums and your monthly payments will depend on stuff like your driving record, how old you are, what kind of car you're driving, and many other different things, just like when we're talking about stuff with retirement funds in the last section about how all the different subtleties there can make up a very different kind of account. Same thing goes for insurance. So just like then, when you're thinking of getting your insurance, when you are getting insured, if it's not given to you by who you work for, you probably want to comparison shop, think carefully, and find the deal that best fits your needs and your circumstances. Where we're going to finish this section here, we're going to finish the week by talking more about some of these types of things. Because, hey, we're spending money. Let's look at some expenses that come with owning a car.